account for Coriolis effects. That's a kind of a contradiction in its own statement on account of the fact that the Coriolis effect is you observing something not actually deviate, something looking like it's curving. There is no accounting for that in the plane. So let's say we use a plane example. We're going to assume Earth spinning underneath the plane as per the claim of Coriolis effect. And you look up at the plane and you go, wow, it looks like it's veering off to the right. Now, in the plane, there's no accounting for the guy on the ground looking at it seem to curve. That's a nonsense. The plane just flies. It doesn't have to account for anything. There is no accounting for a Coriolis effect in a plane or in a boat or in anything, because it's an observation made from somebody watching a projectile seeming to curve, i.e. not actually curving. So there's literally nothing to account for. Now, the only thing you would have to account for, if you use the plane as an example, debunks the very nature of having an Earth-based Coriolis effect. So if you've got an effect from the ground where you look up at a plane, it seems to be curving when it isn't, that means the ground's rotating under the plane, and that shortens the flight times, which simply does not happen. But must if you've got a Coriolis deviation, because that's what gives it you, the ground moving under the plane as the plane moves over the ground. Well, that would shorten flight times. It doesn't, so therefore we don't have a Coriolis effect. There is no two separate reference frames. This does make the top three. This is an excellent proof of why we're not spinning. You know, this three-pronged attack to debunking heliocentricity as a religion. Number one, Black Swan. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, every distance to the horizon must be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Black Swan demonstrates it's way beyond 10 miles when it should be about 1.2. Therefore, the Earth is absolutely and unequivocally not a sphere with a geometric sphere edge horizon blocking boats and buildings and capable of using geometry to qualify how much that geometric sphere edge is blocking boats and buildings to prove you're on a sphere. It's debunked. That's the end of the globe model in terms of its mathematical reification of R. And along with that demolition of the curve calculator, imploding upon itself, is all of the observations in the celestial realm, because all of those observations also depend on R. So that all falls in upon itself as well. So that's the end of both the observations and the ground-based claims that you can prove Earth's a sphere by observing the horizon as a geometric physical sphere edge. It isn't. We've debunked that with the Black Swan. So that's number one on the list for that reason. It's pretty much all-encompassing. You could get away with just that, and it would debunk everything. You don't need to debunk the sky vacuum, which is at number two, because you've debunked their presuppositions of these astronomical distances and therefore an aspect of space to begin with just by debunking R with the Black Swan. However, the sky vacuum, if they fudge the figures and say, well, maybe the stars are closer, we've still got space though. No, you haven't, because space is a space for the gas to fill. We breathe gas, it's at pressure. Gas expands in all directions. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. And as soon as you debunk that region, you end up with nothing to claim from those places. So you've got no satellites from space, no travel in space, no trips to the moon in space. None of that happened. It's all bunk immediately because it violates the second law of thermodynamics. And last but by no means least is what we've just discussed, so the Coriolis effect. If Earth was spinning, you'd have a Coriolis effect. Now, to get around that tricky little problem, they claim they do, and qualify it with nonsense that stays in the air for a second and a half. Well, in reality, things that are in the air for a significant period of time would show the most deviation if you were watching it from the ground, like a plane. You'd see the biggest curve because it's in the air for a long time. But seeing that apparent deviation, seeing that Coriolis effect, means you've got the ground turning underneath the plane and you shorten the flight times, which doesn't happen. Therefore, Earth isn't spinning underneath anything. No gyroscope's got Earth turning underneath it. No pendulum's got Earth turning underneath it. Those are just nonsense claims that aren't backed by things in the air for a very long time in the inertial reference frame, like a helicopter or a drone or a balloon or a plane with its shortened flight times. So that's the top three. You know, those three things debunk every aspect of heliocentricity there is to debunk, because you're left with nothing. You've got no Earth as a sphere, no R value, no sky vacuum, space, and no spinning. Well, what have you got left in the spinning ball space monkey religion? Well, sod all, other than you being descended from monkeys.
Perfect. That's a nice, concise, short clip you're going to put out today, right? That section right there.
I was thinking the same thing. That's got to be put out all over the place. The way Nathan phrases it, all three of them, bang, 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 goodbye.
Well, Neil, you just got the big bang. It's actually working for us, not them.
Why would I declare quite boldly and assert it quite proudly that there is a God? Now, the first law of thermodynamics is an immediate proof that we cannot have any of the things we have unless there's an outside force that created it. Therefore, there is a creator. Fact. Undebunkable. You can't have everything come from nothing within the system itself, which is what the heliocentric claim has in the form of the Big Bang. You've got everything coming from nothing. Well, that violates a law of nature. That could not and would not happen. So the only option you have left is the ontological primitives, is to say there was a creator, it was created by an external force, it cannot be any other way.